Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Take 5 with PelicanCorp. I'm Sam Hansiak, and with me, of course, is Jason Manning.
Hey everyone.
And today we're having a conversation around electronic whitelining. In a previous Take 5 with PelicanCorp, we discussed the CGA's Next Practices report, where a bunch of different technologies were brought up as a path forward to overcoming some of the issues in our industry. And one of them was electronic whitelining. And this is something that I feel a lot of call centers in North America are doing today, but there's also a decent amount that are not doing a form of electronic whitelining. So for this Take 5 is kind of an introduction or a setup to what whitelining is and some of the benefits of it. And then in a next Take 5, we'll delve a little bit more deeper into what this technology can do for the industry as a whole. So first, I'm going to have Jason kind of introduce us to the concept of what electronic whitelining is. And
Sure.
for that, I'll pull up a slide here for you, Jason.
As always, super organized, Sam. Thank you very much. So this is something we've talked about before, and there's actually, just to sort of, I guess, clarify a little bit. I think these two things get conflated sometimes. Is there's notification method, and then there's actual electronic whitelining.
Right.
And what we're showing right now is not it. This is like not electronic whitelining. There's lots of centers that accept, and by the way, we're not knocking these as notification methods. We're just saying they're not to be confused with electronic whitelining. So there's lots of people who call in tickets by a quarter section. We've got an example there on the right. That is a large area. In fact, these are, by the way, all of kind of the same spot, just so you can get an idea of the scale. That's huge.
Right.
Now, when we think about electronic whitelining, at least I'm always trying to think of the goal of this, just like regular whitelining, is the locator. When the locator shows up on site, they want to know, where am I putting the paint down?
Right.
And if you think about someone's backyard and they've staked out where the fence goes, then the locator just goes, okay, I understand it. Now, a quarter section, show up at a quarter section and try to understand where you're supposed to mark. I mean, good luck. We can get a little better, and a lot of centers are doing notification by, the kind of just get a general area. And I mean, this works okay for trying to notify the facilities that are there. But as a locator, you're still looking at multiple residential lots over multiple streets. That's a headache, right? That does not give you. And what this does is it forces people to write a long text-based description of where they are. So it like gets you there. It's like a sort of an X on the treasure map, but a little mud map, as my Aussie colleagues call it all the time. But this isn't a clear description of it. And
Right.
even if you get down to street segment, where we go, okay, well, look, we're on Sage Street. It's the whole street. None of these will give a clear definition of what the excavator is doing. These are not. We always say pictures worth 1,000 words. This also is going to require 1,000 words worth of explaining where you are.
Right.
Um,
And to your
so
point, like it leaves a lot to interpretation, right?
it does. All of these rely on someone having to write or to relay to a CSR at the call center this long verbal description of, the joke that always gets made about, drive until you hit the red barn and, turn left at the cow and whatever. Like this is sort of what we're looking at. So if we kind of move to the next slide, um, then there are many centers that are doing notification, and I think for some people, and I guess this is up for debate. So if you disagree with me, feel free to comment, and we'll have a comment a discussion about it, or maybe talk about it in a future episode. Is getting down to a parcel, and I hear this a lot, like, oh, well, that's sort of like it's held up as the pinnacle of precision, and it's great. It's certainly better than a quarter section. If you look at this is the same address as we had as the quarter section. This is miles ahead. But if I'm a locator and I'm still getting this, first of all, if you're a facility owner and let's say you have facilities running down Sage Street, you've gotten this ticket now. Now, if the person was doing work in the front yard or on the street, well, great, you've gotten the ticket. But what if they're not, and you got called to this anyway? If you look at this map, the street or alleyway behind that lot, um, may actually be where the facilities are in danger, not on Sage Street. So this reliance on this physical address, we're not sending mail, we're describing a dig site.
Right.
So this is better, but still not it.
And would
And
you say that this, Jason, is kind of the most common or the one that we see of the call centers that don't do electronic white lining?
yeah, I think this is often held up as the gold standard of notification. And while I agree that for what a lot of centers are doing, this is good, this still requires, and I think the next slide will sort of illustrate why everyone who thinks like, well, that's perfect, it shows us exactly where they're digging. I think when we get to the next slide, it actually will explain why this is still not quite there. Um, and so it's good. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying this isn't quite an electronic white line.
Let's have you take us through what we can do better here with electronic white lining.
Right. So now this is the exact same address. You can see that Sage Street, Oak Street there. Now we've used satellite imagery here, and this is widely available. It's something that a lot of the call centers are using anyway, or a form of it. All I did in the exact same one call was I switched from like a Google Street View, sorry, not a Street View rather, but the standard map view to a hybrid view, so we can see both things. Um, but what we actually see here is a house, and there's a fence around it, and I've of course just drawn as an example that if I needed to replace two of the sides of this sort of rectangular fence, this is what I'm doing now, right? Traditionally, a one call would have been very happy to grab that whole parcel and then say, write a big long description saying, at the back of the house, on the, if they happen to know what the cardinal directions are, if it's east or
Right.
west or whatever. A lot of times we get things like on the right side of the house. But
My
someone
right,
might,
your right.
yeah. So if they're lucky, someone said, standing on Sage Street looking at the house, to the left, we're doing the fence segment that runs from the garage to the back of the lot, and some big long explanation. Um, but don't forget, if you were a utility that had facilities running down Sage Street, and we were focused on the address of Sage Street, it's actually not, it's not even close. So if you're the water company and the water comes in through the front, you've been notified of this, absolutely no reason. It's nowhere near where you are. Someone who had, let's say, a private utility or whatever buried in that laneway in the back is actually far more vulnerable, and just referring to the address or even the lot doesn't really help them all that much. Um, for a locator as well, to understand, well, what are you locating? Are they going to spend all of their time in the front doing the gas service and the water service in the front, where it's completely irrelevant, right? Um, and so some of these, the I guess benchmarks, or if you want to kind of tick off these things like, is this working and is this effective, is I've kind of defined it borrowing heavily from existing definitions, but uh, I always define it as a clear and immutable record of the proposed excavation. So we don't want it to be open to interpretation. Obviously, the quarter section and the street segment, those do not on their own give a clear indication or description of where the work's being done. This in my mind does. This describes exactly what it is. Does it reduce the dependence on a written description? And I would argue that this absolutely does. No
For
one
sure.
needs to start going in and explaining, oh, which side of the house it's on, or even if they happen to be one of the clearer callers who can explain, or users on the website who can explain what side of the house, and they understand that this is on the southeast side or whatever. This definitely reduces that dependency. Um, this enables automation, and I know we're going to get into this one in a future episode, but
Absolutely.
this actually would let a water company, let's say, who had the main running down Sage Street and the service coming in through the front of the house, this would absolutely enable that water company to say, yeah, we can clear this. Obviously, depending on your state laws and all of that sort of thing, but it certainly could even queue this up for someone to look at and say, hey, we think this is good to go. This does not
Yeah.
affect your facilities.
It
Uh,
opens the door for that higher level, more accurate screening, right?
yeah, absolutely. having this image here, the satellite imagery, makes it easy to use for an excavator, and they can get in close enough to see the fence that they're working on. They can see the property, the driveway, any of these landmarks that they're going to use. Um, and so I think this is a really simple way to describe it. Um, and and really, if you think about this, I know one of the other sort of things that I guess we'll talk about in more in depth in a future episode, um, is if this information is sent out both as an image, so that a locator in the field, let's say without any kind of fancy GIS sort of access, can look at this picture and kind of, you could clearly, I'm not a locator, I could clearly sort of figure out where I need to go to do my locate here. But if this is sent as a spatial file, like a GML or a GeoJSON or something similar to that, um, I could receive this ticket into my ticket management system, or using sort of software that's capable of doing that, and I could actually screen this out, and I could see my facilities in relation to this dig site, and you can automate it. And this really goes to one of the things that we keep talking about. It's a common sort of topic for us at Take 5, is this idea of volume and variability. Well, how do we get to that? A big part is automation, and this enables automation.
And then, so for that last point too, it's just a heck of a lot easier for excavators as well, right? When they come onto the site, everything's clearly marked, and they know exactly where these utilities are.
Yeah, you're right. The whole extent of locate issue, and that was sort of one of the. In fact, if you kind of look at the CGA damage root cause analysis, there's multiple sort of root causes which have to do with sort of unclear marking instructions, or the locate ending short of where the intended excavation is. And of course, some of this is open to interpretation, but this really gives a clear indication to the locator: this is where I'm digging, this is where I need the marks. And there's a picture, it's clear. If the person digs on the opposite corner of the fence, the locator has a clear record saying that's not what you asked for. Right. And likewise, if the marks end halfway down the back of the fence, the excavator can say, I clearly indicated that I was doing the entire back of the fence, and they're not relying on interpreting the written word. So that's my take on electronic whitelining.
All right. Well, thanks again, Jason. I appreciate you taking us through that. And thanks everybody for watching Take 5 with PelicanCorp. We're excited to announce that we've got a lot of new recent viewers, as well as people commenting and starting to follow our channel here. We would encourage anyone who's got a special interest in damage prevention to reach out to us. Let us know what you feel is important to the industry. Provide us a comment. Let us know what information or topics that you'd like to see us cover, or if you'd like to come on Take 5 as well and get the opportunity to talk about what your organization or yourself is doing within the industry. We'd certainly appreciate it and look forward to having you on.
Absolutely. And hey, you know what? You don't always have to agree with us. If you don't agree, comment. If you agree, well, you can go ahead and comment too. We're open to everything. I think we don't think we have all the answers, but we're really looking for a discussion. So
absolutely, yeah. Tell us what we got wrong or what we missed. We'd love to hear from you.
People love telling me what I get wrong.
All right, thanks everyone, and we'll see you at the next one.
See you next time, guys.